Sentris. Be safe on Liberty, Commander. Oh, don't worry about me, you boys and girls try not to get too bored. And let me know if someone beats my record for cloak and shot put. Sure thing, sir. Commander Jeremiah Jerry Escobar Bridger strides away from the Dauntless and resists the temptation to whistle as he walks. He'd waited weeks for this. He'd been carefully planning it since before they left Earth. The hardest goodbye for him had been losing his faithful dog, Togo, a wise, elderly unique breed of dog that had finally passed away of old age shortly after he was selected to join humanity's mission to the stars. He'd had the vet get a drawer of Togo's blood, and then had that DNA sequenced. He couldn't subject a dog to the cruelty of 0G, but perhaps there would be a solution out there in the galaxy. A way for mankind to bring their beloved companions with them. With an insane gleam in his eye, he'd realized he wasn't thinking big enough. Not just one dog. All dogs. And other companions besides. With his new self-granted mandate, he'd gone to work. It had been an expensive project. He'd had to fly across the entire span of the world, even to a remote lab in Siberia. Then to some of the specialist preservation projects, raiding their data for human companions and some choice livestock. Getting the hardened drive that he'd stored numerous species and breeds worth of animals' genetic code on made had been a massive expenditure in and of itself. But it was all worth it. He'd taken his first leave with his troopers, gotten the lay of the land, and let the nerds and eggheads do the legwork. When the ability to transition human file structures to alien-compatible storage mediums became available, he'd cut a deal with a nerd squad kid to get his secure drive copied over. Nothing on the network. Nothing that could be taken from them like the hack. Not even the nerd knew what he'd helped with. He just moved some data around. Then had come the numerous science and recon reports. He browsed them all every morning with his coffee. As a company commander for one of the elite infantry companies of the Dauntless, the real professional head kickers, he had plenty of clearance, so it was just a matter of not going off half-cocked. He doubted he'd get guff over this. But not only would this be good for humans, if he did it right, it'd also be his retirement plan once his fresh term of service to the Undaunted now was finished. He hopped a bus, and generally tried to keep to himself. He'd put on actual cologne and some serious deodorant to keep his pheromones somewhat under control. He didn't want too much attention from the various gorgeous alien women walking around. Not that he was against the idea, but he was a man on a mission, and bringing back dogs, cats and other human companions meant more to him than getting an alien girlfriend. He had quite a ways to travel, across most of the city to a far spire. It wasn't the closest cloning business on the planet, but it was a boutique specialist in rapid cloning as opposed to the more industrial cloning that seemed to be closer to the where the Dauntless was birthed. When he arrives, the place is slick, clean, medical almost. Lots of smooth lines, white, and chrome. What art and decor there is all inspired by DNA. And not everything in the galaxy has a double helix, even a dumb grunt can understand that from the images around. Jerry looks around, appreciating the decor as the proprietress comes onto the shop floor. His eyebrows raise. A Volpir. The insanely busty fox woman slinks over to him, delicately placing a jeweled plug in her nose. My apologies about the nose piece, dear, but I try to be polite with men, my kind. We have a reputation, you see. Yes, I've heard that Volpir can be a touch sensitive to pheromones. Thank you kindly for your manners, madam. Cylindria. But you can call me SYL, all the handsome human men I know do. All right, SYL. How many is that, by the way? Just you so far. So you are, human? Jerry nods slowly. That's right, I'm an officer on the Dauntless, just a soldier, nothing too exciting. Jeremiah Escobar Bridger, you can call me Jerry if you like. SYL nods slowly, clearly not entirely sure what would bring him here. Well, I appreciate your custom, of course. But what can I do for you? You can clone. Just about anything, right? Yes, I offer comprehensive cloning services. I mostly do high-end meat for discerning vegan clients that won't eat meat from living beings. But occasionally we do something a bit more special relating to fertility. All to a higher-end clientele, as I said. My customers include some of the most senior ambassadors and ministers around, along with major CEOs and the like. Yes, the reviews I could find were all absolutely glowing. Jerry smiles at the vulpine alien and she feels her heart skip a beat or two. He had a crooked half smile that seemed to promise all manner of trouble for her. But the fun kind of trouble that younger women like to fantasize about. And it seemed pretty damn appealing to SYL at the moment. I have a business proposition for you. Not the type of propositioning I was hoping for, but do go on. The charming alien man laughs for a moment. Do you have an office? This conversation will involve some sensitive data that I won't want to share with all of Centris. SYL quickly leads him into the back, her tail brushing around his ankles. Her cob nurse is attending to one of the cloning vats, a custom-ordered set of eggs for a customer who had gone barren but didn't believe in healing comas. Her eyes widen and her jaw drops at the sight of the man. Handle the front noddy, I'm with a client. Or is potential partner the correct term? Client for now. For sure I'm going to have a commission provided you can clone living beings. We wouldn't be much of a cloning facility if we couldn't, but please, step into my office and make yourself comfortable. Her office was a warm, welcoming place, sensible if she also did fertility counseling in here, Jeremiah thought to himself. That could be a very sensitive subject on a good day. In a galaxy where women were even more obsessed with the concept to the point of having whole religions dedicated to having children, Jeremiah couldn't begin to imagine what coming up barren would be like if healing comas weren't an option. As they take their respective seats, he pulls out a portable holo display that he'd bought on his previous Liberty excursion. He'd made sure a tech had disabled its remote access systems, then loaded in one of the data cards with the massive genetic repository he'd developed. Part of his archiving had been creating a system of icons to indicate what's what at a glance. GUIs weren't anything special, but his DNA archive was likely the only one with such a feature. The screen flashes into being and begins to slowly scroll, displaying row after row of Terran wildlife. What are all these? Her jaw drops slightly as the machine automatically scrolls through the mass of animals. There had to be hundreds of different species or breeds being shown to her. Animals from Earth, mostly pets and companion animals. We couldn't bring any with us out of cruel space. The extended period of zero gravity would have been horrible for them. So I thought I'd do the next best thing. Cats, some feline predators that more or less domesticated themselves. And dogs, a domesticated form of a pack-hunting canine called a wolf, are the two big ones, and a lot of people are really missing their presence in our lives in the wider galaxy, me included. The screen flashes through a variety of images of various types of cat and dog. Some of the larger animals aren't much use on Centris, but things like cows are raised for meat. With your cloning tanks, we could potentially go into business producing Earth meats like beef, the meat of cows. He displays an image of the animal in question. Oh, like an aurochs. Right, quite similar. That and other animal meat could be produced in small batches, which would let us set the price however we please really. Personally, I think we keep it fair, especially since it'll be made to order. Just like the pets. I even have some very specific DNA samples and data to produce very special meats like Wagyu. What is Wagyu? SYL cocks her head slightly. A very expensive kind of beef back home. It's not just how it's born, it's how it's raised, specifically how the fat marbles on the meat over time, but I have DNA samples and detailed composition notes. We should potentially be able to replicate its structure. Yes, theoretically that's all quite doable. They wouldn't be able to handle it at a larger production rate, but here I should be able to make it work. What about the others, the companion animals? Or these ones here? The big ones. Are they for meat too? Well, for the companions obviously would be producing live animals, made to order to customer specification. No need to keep a breeding stock, though I have enough genetic variation in the various strains that a viable breeding population could be created. Those big ones though. Those are called horses, and they'd be something we'd need to work out how to produce. Why's that? Just looking at them compared to the cows, size isn't an issue. We have some larger tanks downstairs. It's transit that's the real issue, Horses are grazing and herd animals and aren't really suited to city living. My thought with them was that humans could put them to work on our new colony worlds. Or if their services for work aren't needed, we could retain a form of recreation that a lot of our species enjoys. There also might be a call for their meat, but with things like beef on tap, I suspect that will be a very limited request. Maybe from galactic customers. Terran delicacies are becoming all the rage, and many carnivores and omnivores delight in trying rare new things. Well, in that case, horse meat has a reputation for almost being sweet. So that might in fact be quite popular. Cylindria clasps her hands and leans in a bit, showing off some of her cleavage and letting her get a bit closer to Jeremiah over her desk. Alright, I'm on board, but let's skip down to the bottom line, shall we? I'm a businesswoman first and foremost after all, and I noticed that us earlier. No one does something for nothing. What do you want for this boon of genetic material? I want a full partnership, half stake or equity in the company, assuming you have no outside investors and haven't given any equity to your nurse. No, I'm the sole owner. But it seems that's going to be changing. You say you're just a soldier? Well, to be fair, I'm an officer as well, but yes, I was a special kind of soldier called a Marine before the call for the Dauntless crew came out. I lead men then, and I lead men now. I see. Well, I think you'll be an objective boon to my business, even without opening me up to what appears to be a very lucrative market. By the way, you said you had a special commission for me first. Jerry's eyes moisten a moment. Ah, yes. Just before I left Earth, my dog passed away, Togo. He was a majestic old beast, and he lived quite a long time. I don't want a clone of Togo, but rather I'd like to create his daughter. An image flashes up, letting Cylindria take a good look at it before resuming its scrolling. A gorgeous creature, its coat is almost as nice as mine. What type is that one? The breed is called an American Alsatian. They're bred to resemble wolves, but have the kind of personality and temperament you'd expect from a house pet. Gentle giants. Give me the data for the daughter of Togo, my dear. This one is on the house. Aye. Suddenly something catches Cylindria's eye on the display. Oh, what's that one? She waggles a finger at a somewhat familiar orange, black and white coat passing by on the display. Oh, that one. Jerry taps it, and it expands to show a variety of coat variations, all modeled on a cartoon version of a very familiar-looking four-legged animal. Vulpes familiaris, the domesticated red fox. Came out of a Russian program that started around a century ago. I don't know what a Russian is, but that looks quite a bit like a Volpir. Now that I think about it, some of these animals, the dogs, are even similar to Lopen. Never mind the Feli look-alikes. And these are all beloved companions of humanity. Pretty much. Goddess, no wonder you humans apparently have such strong xenophilic tendencies. You've been bonding with what look like our precursors for thousands of years. There's a lot of art of vulpine women actually, some of it from way back in humanity's past, and more recent stuff. In fiction, and in some nations' mythology, vulpine women are known to be some of the most beautiful in all the world and heavens. Cylindria preens herself a bit. And how do I stack up to your myths, Mr. Bridger? Better than any fantasy I've ever had about a fox woman, to be certain. That he might have never had a fantasy about a fox woman before was besides the point, and nothing Cylindria cared about really. The way he had said it lit parts of her body on fire, pheromones or no damn pheromones. Cylindria took a deep, steadying breath, resisting pouncing over her desk to surprise marry him right there. She could take a lot, but such aggressive flirting from a man even. It was a bit feminine of him, but from Jeremiah she found it very appealing. Cylindria rose quietly, and excused herself from her office for a moment. Noddy. The cob nurse sprints over. Yes, you're not married, correct? The cob nods sadly. Unlikely to be for some time too. My clan's not had much luck in marriage negotiations, and that tends to be how we end up Wednesday. Most men don't seek out cobs, it seems. Well, these humans are supposed to be different. Jeremiah has made a significant business proposition. Essentially, he'd be a full partner in a new business that's as much a pet store as a cloning service. The cob smiles brightly. Oh, That would be fun. I always liked animals as a girl. He said humans love their pets, and would likely get very steady business from human crews. Especially as they continue to expand and bring more of their people out of cruel space. The only downside is we might need to relocate at some point, but that's an issue for later. I've decided I'm taking his deal. Very good. I've also decided I don't want him as a business partner the normal way. I'm going to close the store, put on some lingerie, and I'm getting a husband. The Volpir pulls the decorative blocker from her nostrils and tosses the piece of embellished gold over her shoulder. It's probably part of his plan, it's all in that damned smile of his, I know it. But I don't care, he's handsome, smart, and has an admirable passion for pets and people alike. Once I'm done, I'll convince him to add you to the marriage. The three of us are in this together. Noddy practically vibrates herself into the air with the brightest, toothiest grin the lizard woman can possibly manage. I'll handle everything out here. Or should I call you sister now? Wait till I've sealed the deal. Go get him a beverage and ask him to wait for me for a few moments. I need to freshen up. Cylindria strode upstairs to her apartment, already mentally selecting the underwear that would best highlight her charm. She needed some serious battle panties for this job. After all, his deal promised to make her a fairly wealthy woman in its own right. It'd be even better if all of their income was going into the same account. Plus there was always that damn smile. Her tail swishes. She might need to get some of her sisters in on this. Just you wait, Jeremiah, I'm going to make you another offer you wouldn't dream of refusing. Then we're going to make enough money that I can buy us a nice planet to retire on and raise all the kits I'm going to have you rut into me. The Volpir smiles to herself in the mirror. Yes, everything was going along swimmingly.